So of course, along on the ride tonight, Emily. Emily, do you want to say anything about yourself?
I'm recently returned from riding my bike across the state of Iowa, so I'm a little bit hoarse because I spent a week outside and I'm allergic to everything, apparently.
Fun. Oh, I don't know if I introduced myself. I'm Sean Sheehy, director of the Movable Book Society, and delighted to have you all along tonight. Also along with us tonight is Isabel Uria, board member and social media wrangler, and Kyra Hicks, board member and info and tech genius. Kyra, quick aside behind my hand. Are we ready to start dropping any hints about the index yet? He says publicly.
What index? I'm sorry.
The index.
I am totally clueless, Sean. I'm so sorry.
The index you're working on, Kyra.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I can. You want me to? I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm usually not this silly, everybody. My name is Kyra Hicks, and one of the things I'm working on with the Movable Book Society is a comprehensive, totally fabulous index of more than 100 issues of the Movable Book Society newsletter. So we're going back to issue number 1, and we're making a comprehensive index for all of those who are looking for that detail that you just can't remember where it is. And it'll be an index of paper engineers, of places, so exhibits, of subject matter, and of books, of course. So look forward, more details in the next issue of the Movable Book Society newsletter.
Book Society newsletter. Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Kyra. Thank you. Okay. As usual, if you've got questions as we're going, let me have you type those into the chat, and we'll keep an eye on questions, and we'll pull them out when that time seems appropriate. Also, we're going to soak up a ton of bandwidth tonight, so it'd be super if you turned off your video now that you've seen everyone's happy faces, and that'll help to keep things go smoothly. I think I'm looking down my list. I've got a couple more commercial items that I'm going to bring up in a little bit, but let us jump in. And we're going to start tonight with MJ Lindford, who I've known for just forever. And MJ's been a book artist for over 50 years, my friends. And she's been working with young people for much of her career. And she's got this great book coming out that she's going to tell you about, that's been tested on 6,000 children. So there's that. And MJ, she's got a degree in art history. She's got a teaching certificate for K-12 art. And she opened and taught at the Island Art Space, teaching preschoolers up to adults. She taught at the Blakely Elementary for 6 years, and then 5th and 6th grade at Sonoji Sakai Intermediate School, from which she retired recently. And she's also coordinated the Lesley University cohort program, has a master's degree in educational technology. She's going to talk about tech tonight. So MJ, it's all you.
Thank you. Well, I'm not sure exactly when I got interested in adding electronics to my books. I know it was after I started making pop-up books, but I don't remember what was the impetus for doing that. It might have been my my degree in educational technology. And by the way, the school that I taught at most was Sonoji Sakai, although Sakai was our, Sakai salmon was our mascot. Anyway, so I'm going to just jump right in and talk about electronics for books. Now, if you have any questions about this, you can either put them in the chat, or I can give you my email address, or Sean will give you my email address so that you have the opportunity to let me, to, you know, have me respond to those. So we're going to be talking about electronics for books, adding both light and sound to your pages. And first of all, what we're going to cover is the examples of light and sound. The examples of sound will be before the sound section. Then I'm going to talk about basic electronics and how to add those to your book, some simple solutions, and then I'll give you resources. And this entire presentation is also available on my website, which is badgirlbooks.com. Excuse me, badgirlpress.com. Don't go to Bad Girl Books. Okay, so some examples of adding light into your book. This is a book by Carol Barton. She's actually added light into many of her books, and this was her first book that she did that with, and this was called 5 Towers. And she simply had the LED buried in the middle of the book, and I believe they shown up through every single page. Shelby Arnold was as a person who was working with Chibitronics, and this was as part of a project for Chibitronics. And she's been doing some absolutely amazing books. These are tunnel books that activate when you open them out. I think they were very, very cool. I discovered recently Hari and Deepti, who are a couple who started out, I believe, in Chicago, but have since moved to Mumbai. And they do these layered books, or they're actually dioramas, but they certainly could be a tunnel book if you wanted to collapse them. And they have this very clever use of both paper cuts, and they use different weights of paper to get the different luminosity in a lot of these papers. So that's an idea that I am planning on playing around with. I'm going to be doing a night book, and I'm going to playing around with that. So then we also, of course, have Matthew Reinhardt's Star Wars. This was very fun for a commercial book to see the lightsabers light up in these. As you can see right here, you get a close-up of these lightsabers. And when you flip open the tab that opens up the page, then you get these lighted lightsabers. So it's a great way to take a look at how light can be incorporated in a book as well. This is by G Key, and G Key is the person who started Chibitronics. And I love that website because she focuses mostly on paper as her way, and artist books, movable books, as her way to incorporate light and sound. And she began Chibitronics as a way to make those commercially available to people. They're very, very reasonable. She started out with using a battery unit that would sit in the middle of her page or wherever she wanted to put it. Here it is in this one. And I've got the screenshots in front of me, so I can't see where it is in this one. But these are units that have the batteries in them, and then they have contacts all around on the bottom. And then she uses ink, conductive ink pens, to make all of these traces. So it's very fun when you pull these out, they light up, etc. And so it's very fun to play around with their books. Mira Blocker is another early on adopter of electronics when she made this Help Yourself, Exercise Your Mother book, where if you have an issue, you can take the lead right here and you plug it, grab onto any one of these things, and then it makes the nose light up and it allows you to exercise your mother from yourself. I believe this is a one of a kind, and the Bainbridge Island Museum of Art owns this one. And then this is one of mine, Disaster Houses 2, all of the disasters that could possibly befall a house. And this is the lightning house. When you pull the tab, the lightning bolt comes down. As you can see, some of these lighted areas right here in the window, it's using a flashing light that flashes different colors. And I got that from a pair of Halloween teeth at the dollar store. And I basically took them apart and put the electronics into the book. So it's a lot of fun to play around with these kinds of things. I'm going to talk about the basic concept. Basically, you have an LED and a coin cell battery. That's what you have here. That's all you really need. Anything else you can invent. So the thing that you need to remember about LEDs is that the longer side of the tab is the positive side and the short side is the minus side. If you cut off your LED, then you just have to test it like this. And you just put it onto the battery, one prong on one side, one prong on the other side, and lo and behold, you can, if it lights up, you've got it right. If it doesn't light up, you have it backwards. And when you look at a cell, these are lithium coin cells. This is the positive side and the back side is the negative side. Fun thing that you can do with these is to tape the LED onto the coin cell battery, then super glue a rare earth magnet on it, and then you can throw them anywhere you want. And if you hit metal, they'll stick to it and they'll light up. So it's kind of fun. Okay, so the basic concept here is a simple circuit. All you need really is the battery and the LED. But if you want to put it into a book, then you have to have some way of getting the power from the battery that is underneath here to the LED. And so this is using copper tape right here. This particular one uses copper tape that has just been torn off. Another one stuck on top, another one stuck on, etc. We'll show a better way to do that. This is a series circuit. The one previous to this is a simple circuit. Then we have the series circuit, and this is where you can add a couple of LEDs. This is one where basically you've got the battery here. Again, you've got the connections, and they are in line. So the cells or the lights divide this voltage between the LEDs. And so what happens is that as you add more, your lights get more dim. A parallel circuit is where you have them actually both attached to the battery, making their own simple circuit here and another simple circuit here, as opposed to the series one where they share the copper tape. The parallel circuit basically is adding the same, it's just adding another circuit. What happens with this is that each LED receives the full voltage, and you can put as many of them on there as you want to, but they do drain the batteries a lot faster. So you have to take that into consideration. And that might mean adding more batteries to the mechanisms. The supplies you'll need are pretty simple. There are coin cell batteries that you can get just about anywhere. You can buy them wholesale or retail through like Amazon and that sort of thing, and you'll find that you can get a whole lot for fairly inexpensive. Same thing is true with LEDs. These are clips that you might want to use to hold your connection together so you don't have to keep pushing your thumb with it. And then of course you have the copper tape. And any kind of copper tape will work fine, but the best copper tape is the kind that has conductive sticky on the back. LEDs are light emitting diodes, and you have lots of choices with these. These are 5 millimeter LEDs. They're 3 volt. They have 180 milliamps, so they're pretty bright. However, they are harder to hide. They're relatively big, and the light comes straight out the top rather than coming out the side. So if you're looking at them out of the sides, they're not going to be very bright. 3 millimeters are much smaller. They're easier to hide. They still have that rounded top. And again, the light comes out of the top as well. I have started using what are called flat top LEDs. They look like just like this. They're flat on the top. And with the light, they broadcast a light over a much wider spectrum. So you can see that you get a much wider area on these of the light showing. They are much easier to hide. You can actually just practically embed them in the page. They come in a lot of different colors, and so they're a lot of fun to play with. You can also get a variety of other light emitting diodes, LEDs. These are LEDs that are put out by SparkFun. These are intended really for people who are doing any kind of fiber arts or people who want to sew their circuits in, and they have a very convenient hole at each end, the plus end and the minus end, and you sew conductive thread onto them and onto fabric, and you can actually put them on your body if you want to. These are, and also SparkFun has these guys here, which are multiple LEDs. Arduino and LilyPad have these guys that are LEDs that are in a whole long row, and you can either hook them up all together or you can cut them apart in any length. They also you can get different shapes, etc. The place that I've been really enjoying is a place called chibitronics.com. They are specifically electronics for paper crafters. And they have stick-on electricity circuitry. Each one of these is a little LED that peels off of the sticky back, and then it becomes something that you can put right onto your copper tape. This is the plus side, that's the negative side, and you just stick it right on, and they're very, very cool. You also need batteries. You can get batteries in a variety of places. The thing that you need to keep in mind is that each size battery has a different voltage. I generally use these standard coin cell batteries, that's what they're called, and they are lithium batteries. They last a fair amount of time. You get the, and the sizes are, so if it says CR2032, it's 20 millimeters wide, and it's 3.2 millimeters deep. The smaller ones have different milliamps. You can use traditional battery holders that look like these. You can get them just anywhere on the web. Other batteries, this is a SparkFun battery holder that I really like and I've been using a lot of. You also can, and it has a switch on and off, and the other ones here have switches on and off as well. And these are available through a wide variety of sources. All you have to do is put in LED switch, coin cell switch, and you can get to them. You can use smaller LEDs as well. We've got these right here that are what are called button LEDs. The only downside to these is that they're only 1.5 volts, and LEDs need 2 of those because there's 3-volt units. You can use all sorts of things to make connections. The most standard is coated wire. You just peel off the coating to make your connections. You can use copper tape. That is pretty wonderful. If you need larger areas, you can use brass sheeting. And these are threads that are conductive that you can sew with. And then a new one that I'm really kind of playing around with is this conductive paint. You can get it in pens, and you can also get it as paint. And we saw those pieces by G Key. This was the paint she was using. I'm going to have to hurry up because otherwise Sean's going to cut me off. Switches, it's a good idea to have switches. And the reason is because you want to be able to turn the switches on and off so that you can control when the lights go on. You don't want them on all the time because you're just going to drain your batteries. So switches are things that you can use when the page is opened or activate when an action is taken. Push button switches are things that you can bury in the corner of the page and then just simply have a spot on that says push here. I'm really starting to enjoy these leaf switches because they are rare earth magnet activated. And when you open up the page, if you have the rare earth magnet in connection with this and you open up the page and you move the rare earth magnet, the switch switches and then whatever action you take comes on. So I'm really liking these because they really do preserve the length of the battery, and they don't wear out the battery quite as much. Making a simple circuit is pretty easy. If you can, to start out with, a very basic one, you can download a simple circuit outline like this. It's just a PDF, put the tape on it, and then add your CDs. So here we have an I Love You card that's a pop-up card, and this person has added their LED, and the corner is as you can see, is a finger push. These are downloading templates from makerspaces. The only thing I want to say is that if you cut them off and if you cut off the foil and then stick another one on it going the other direction, you can sometimes lose conductivity. And when you lose conductivity, you're going to dim your lights a little bit. So instead of doing that, you can use a continuous piece by simply pulling up on where you want to make the turn. I'm going to be putting the tape down here. Oops. So I pull it up and then push it down so it kind of forms a bed corner, as you can see right here. And then you have that continuous copper foil corner. when you're putting your LEDs on, you want to pull out your LED wires, and I pull them out extremely close as I can to the LED so that it goes as flat as it can. And then you want to put another piece of copper tape onto the LED right here, so that rather than a piece of Scotch tape, because this will add to that conductivity and make sure that you really get a good connection. Then you put your battery down in the corner. An easy way to adhere your battery is just simply do one of those little tape around things. You'll just take the copper and fold it around on itself and push it down. And then the sticky side is right here, and you can just stick your battery to it. And that's pretty simple. You've got a simple circuit. So adding a switch, you can get switches like these, and all you have to do is to make a break in the copper foil, and then just stick it down there. And instead of putting tape on it, I would put copper foil on top of it. The other thing you can do is just simply make a break here, put some more copper foil here, and flip that over and press it down, and it becomes a switch as well. So that's a really simple way to do it. Adding, oh dear, I'm at 16 after. So what do you want to do, Sean?
I think this is a
Nearly
great
finished.
place to pause, MJ.
Okay.
Because right before you get into talking about sound, because indeed we're pretty much at the mark, and it would be great to give a couple of folks a chance to ask a question.
Okay.
So yeah, pull off your presentation for a quick second, and we're going to bring you back and have you finish up, starting with the sound next time
Okay.
we get together in November. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect.
Sweet. So much good stuff. Holy cow. That's tons and tons of information.
And sorry that I had to go so fast. 15 minutes isn't very long. I normally do this as a 2-hour workshop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just because we do record these, this will be viewable, so people can look at it again. They can stop and start and study what you're saying, and so they'll have plenty of chances to kind of see what you're up to. And Kyra has been throwing in website links in the chat, so all of the companies and websites she's been mentioning are all listed in the chat, so you can make note of that. And we do have a question asking what LED light and battery was used for the tunnel book. And I think that's the people that went to Mumbai. I'm guessing that, do you know?
No, and in fact, you simply cannot see there. I mean, there's no place on the web that I've found where they take a side view. But I can tell, based on looking at that they have used more than likely a lot of batteries in series. I'm sure they're probably still coin cell batteries because they are still using LEDs. And I think that what's going on there is that they are taking multiple LEDs and putting them in the different layers of the tunnels, and then also behind the first back layer. And the key thing I think about theirs that makes them so interesting is that I think they're using a lot of different weights of paper. You can take a look, if you do a web search on them, you can get to a lot of sites that have their images on there where they show the non-lit up tunnels. And those you can tell have a variety of different weights of paper, all the way from vellum all the way up through heavier cardstock, to give them that depth of feeling.
So let's at this point move on to Skye, but super quick. MJ's going to come back, so bring questions back if you've got more questions for MJ for next month. Let me take MJ out of the spotlight there, so she doesn't have to feel self-conscious anymore. But thanks, MJ. Super good stuff. Yeah. And also,
can I show a quick copy of the book?
Yes.
And the book. Promote the book.
And Isabel has put a link to MJ's book on Amazon where you could purchase your own if you wish to. Let's spotlight MJ again, Sean.
Spotting MJ again. Okay.
This is the manual that I set up for all of the students that I worked with. And it has step-by-step instructions. And then in the back are all of the patterns for all of the structures, plus the variations. And the reason that I did put this together and put it out on the web was because these are foolproof instructions that a sixth grader could put these together without asking a question. I was available, obviously, for questions, but I did this as a manual because I had students in the different classes that were all doing different things at the same time. So that was part of my mental health right there.
Right.
So, and it's available on Amazon, and I'm really excited about it, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Okay, done.
Super. Thanks, MJ. And of course, another reminder that the MJ's PDF is on her website. So you can take another look at it there if you'd like to study it a little more closely. And let's jump over to Skye. So happy to have Skye Tafoya with us this evening. Learned about her and some of the work that she has done fairly recently at a workshop. And Skye is an indigenous artist from the Eastern Band Cherokee and Santa Clara Pueblo tribes. Her tribal heritage and lineage are significant components that are continuously present within her work. Skye has worked in both two-dimensional and three-dimensional forms ranging in sizes from handheld to life-size. She creates work using serigraph and letterpress printmaking and through paper cutting, paper weaving, and bookmaking. Her work and designs are influenced by basketry and contain themes of cultural teachings, Cherokee language preservation, personal and family narratives. She creates with the intention of preserving and sharing stories, language, culture, and experiences. Skye published her first artist book. Skye, please pronounce that for me.
Olmagid.
Say it again, slow.
Olmagid.
Thank you. In the spring of 2020, and has displayed work nationally and internationally in Russia. She received her BFA from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe and her MFA from the Pacific Northwest College of Art in Portland, Oregon. Skye, you are spotlight, go. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's really interesting. I haven't talked about this work in so long, so I will share my screen. There we go.
Good, yeah.
Okay, so this was my thesis work for my graduate degree. This is a little snapshot. It's called The Basket, the Body, the Book. And so I started getting interested in bookmaking right after I learned letterpress, I think in 2016. And this is the work. It's pretty huge. It has a 16-foot by 16-foot base. The tallest structure is a little over 9 feet. And then the other ones kind of just range from sizes underneath that. But I'll kind of just
Skye, quick interruption, Skye. You're a little hard to hear. If you can,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Let me kind of tell you more about this then. So this is a 16 by 16 foot base, and the structure, the tallest one is 9 foot, and then the other ones kind of just range from sizes lower than that. It is made with honeycomb cardboard, 2-ply cardboard, Tyvek, and then there's a lot of screen printing on it. Used a lot of different adhesives as well, like Tyvek tape, spray adhesives, and double stick adhesives. And so I'll kind of just start how I started creating this work. I knew that I wanted to do a really large pop-up. When I started doing smaller pop-ups, I thought like an immersive environment would be really amazing to be a part of. As I went along with the work, it became more of like a piece about my experiences rather than sharing it as an immersive environment. So when I first made it, I wanted people to walk on the surface, but you know, kind of just when I started thinking about the themes of it, it was basically just for me to walk on it. But I'll start here because this is kind of like how I started playing around with the materials. And this is one of the first structures that I built with it, which was a lot easier to make because in my studio, it was a very kind of a small space. So I wasn't able to actually build my huge book in this space. So that's where I started. This is the prototype or the mock-up for the book, The Body of the Basket. And it's basically a mimic of Robert Sabuta's Wizard of Oz, Emerald City. I'll just kind of show you, like, if you can see it on the camera. That's kind of just how I did mimic the structure a lot. But I also, up until this year, had never had a formal teaching of pop-up books. And that was with Sean earlier this year. And this is the opening of that. So this was just really informing the whole practice of scaling down and scaling back up. And these are all the pre-cut pieces because I couldn't assemble anything in the studio. I had to do all of the work on site. And right here is my Rubylith layout of where I wanted to screen print. And so I did all the screen printing on site as well. That's kind of the space where I started doing all the printing. And in the background is the all the Tyvek that's been printed on and some of the structures that are already standing. And so when I worked, I had to go inside of the structure over and over. And it was really tough because it's such a large book. I was having a lot of hard time because there is no way that you can open and close the structure and adhere the hinges so easily with like such a large thing that's a lot larger than I am. And so I thought this video was pretty fun. Yeah, I had a really hard time making the whole thing. It was fun at times, but a lot of times really frustrating. I didn't have anyone to really help me open and close it, to help me with all the hinging. I was doing everything by myself. It's really tough. So here's a bigger picture of it. Yeah, so it does open and close. And here's some details of the screen printing that I was doing. I was really interested in these windows at the time of being like ways to look at people, but also to look out of in a sense of like feeling safe or not feeling safe. And this part is like more of my culture. So on the left side, you have the corn maiden who dances for the rain, and along with some basketry patterns right beneath her. And inside of the book is the red willow baskets that me and my dad make together. So I screen printed them inside where I was only able to go, but that was like one of the places that was so confining. And it was actually really hard to get out of at one point, as you saw with like the stair. But when I was trying to put all the hinges down, I got stuck in there a couple of times. Just, it was really terrible. But here's also the closing of the book. And then when I finished the book, there was no it wasn't like something that I sold or anything. And I don't even think that someone could house this really easily. So I had to take it all down. And so it's me and one of my colleagues kind of just helping me take things down and trying to save as much like the Tyvek material as possible, because the material is pretty expensive. I think that's it. I do have a thesis that went with it, and a lot of the themes and my experiences are really well written, like more poetically in my thesis. So I think that Sean has the link to that. If anyone's interested in reading it, it's probably about 30 pages, but it's a lot of concrete poetry in it. So it's not really 30 pages.
Skye, are you done with your screen sharing?
I am, yeah. No, I did stop share.
I'll give you an assist there. Yeah.
There we
So indeed, I'm scrolling down here to see, there it is, right. Skye's 38-page 2018 thesis, The Basket That Bodied the Book. There's the link. Yeah, have a nice read with that.
So, Skye, I have
yeah.
there's one question from the
Yeah.
chat. Is that, yeah, I think you answered it, which is that basically you salvaged the materials from the book. So the large book is not existing anymore. But you have a limited edition book that Kyra has put the link up, that there's a YouTube link where you can see video on that, and it is in some libraries. Yes.
Yeah, it's in a lot of libraries right now. I'm almost out of print. I'm selling it myself. WSW did sell about 17 copies for me, and then I sold the remaining ones. I think I might have about 13 copies left.
Nice.
And do you have a website?
I do not, but if I can actually share my screen again, because what was really great about making the big pop-up is that the title of it, The Book, the Body, the Basket, is that those themes really move forward into my new works. Like, and so I did create another book that looks exactly like a basket.
Okay.
Should I share?
Kyra just threw your
it.
Instagram account into
Yeah,
the chat too.
Yeah.
Right. And people will be able to contact you through Instagram too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Skye, I would love to know about that moment in the gallery, like when it was sort of like the formal presentation of it. Did you have like a crowd that was standing around so that you could do the unfold and just sort of enjoy the gasps, etc.?
Yeah. Unfortunately not. I was terrified to open it and close it because it was so fragile, and I actually didn't open and close it until after the show had ended.
Oh,
which was kind of amazing, because I think we were able to open and close it maybe 5 times, and then it just started tearing apart.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Follow-up question. Talk just for a few moments about your materials research, just to figure out what was going to work the best to make this thing happen.
Okay, well, when I was thinking about this book, I was looking at a lot of little images of people who just use cardboard, and then someone emailed me a link to Colette Foo's exhibit with her really large book, and I don't know the title of it, but I think it was in Philadelphia. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I looked at that and I was just in complete awe. Like I didn't know how like I was gonna like live up to her amazing book. So I emailed her actually, and I asked about her materials, and she was like, "Oh, well, I made this out of gator board," and I was like, "Oh, it looks really lightweight," and she was like, "No, it's not lightweight at all. It's really heavy and very expensive. Like you need to know exactly like how to build with it if you're gonna like take up the expense and do it. I thankfully had the honeycomb cardboard donated to me, which was amazing because I think like you have to buy it in bulk and it's 40 sheets. And I think like the lowest price might be like $800 or $900 for that big package of things. But thankfully someone in Portland, they had done a workshop and they're like, we need to get rid of all this honeycomb cardboard. And I got an email, and my friend Molly, they had a truck, so they came and helped me. And it was just like, I asked for it and it just came to me somehow.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. And I'm seeing Kyra has Colette's website in the chat, so folks can take a look at that and see what her big pop-up looks like too. Ooh, sweet. Thank you, Skye. So
Yeah.
much fun to see that work again, hear a little bit more about it. I'm going to look forward to spending some time with your thesis documentation as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, let us now pause for a moment with one brief commercial, because y'all know we have a conference coming up in the not too distant future, September 30th through October 3rd. We're going to meet in Denver. And so far, our in-person meeting is going forward pretty good. And we've got right around 50 people that are signed up to come, and about the same number that are signed up for the virtual version. So you can attend the conference virtually if you would like to do that. And all of the links for the conference are showing up in your chat right now as I talk. And we're just keeping a really close eye on what's happening with the COVID situation. And on the website, you'll see that I've just listed a couple of links, and you can follow those links to see exactly the same things that I'm looking at in terms of, what is going to be the best thing for us all to do when we meet. And we're going to do that best thing, and we're going to have a good time. So I hope to see you there, either in person or virtually. And in the meantime, we of course have our newsletter, which comes out quarterly, but it's only available for members. So if you'd like to be a member, if you would like to receive a copy of our quarterly newsletter, go to the website. That's going to be showing up in the chat super quick, and become a member. It's cheap and you'd be so welcome. All right, let's jump over to Ellen Knudsen, who is a book artist producing books under the imprint Crooked Letter Press. She's currently the associate in book arts at the University of Florida in Gainesville. Ellen has been a book artist and a designer for over 30 years. She holds an MFA in book arts from the University of Alabama. She has taught book arts and letterpress at the University of Florida, University of Alabama, graphic design at Mississippi State, Wayne State, and she's taught workshops across the US. Her work is in the Library of Congress, SF MoMA, Yale University, and many other national and international collections. And super quick, before I pass this over to Ellen, let me do a quick reminder to mute yourselves. And here's Ellen.
Hello. I'm gonna share my screen so you can see my book, so you can look down at that instead of me. Do that. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it's is it the wrong direction? It's not horizontal. Let me see if I can do anything about that. Nope. I tested this, and of course it's not going to do it. Let me see if I can just rotate my phone. Sometimes that'll fix it. This is my phone that I'm using, so maybe if I, oh, that did it.
Yep. Hey.
Boom, fixed. Okay. Okay, so this is my book. I just finished it. It's an edition of 40 books. So it's called Rule of Thumb. And you can see I've made all these. These are lino cuts of thumbs that are printed on the enclosure. And this is the book. I'm going to take it out. Yeah. And I'm going to try to read it a little bit, but not completely, because that's like sort of a boring thing to do. But I wanted to show you, this is I'm calling it the first movable book that I've made, because it actually has movable parts in it. And so this was a learning experience for me, because like I said, I've never done this before. I've never made like pulls and wheels and all of those things. And it took a lot of experimentation to do that. So the spine, this is a storage book binding. So the spine is made of Tyvek that's been stained or painted with ink, acrylic ink. And here it is, rule of thumb. It looks a little bit blurry, I apologize for that, and so I'll read this part, this page. It's pollice verso with a turned thumb. The term is used in the context of gladiatorial combat. It refers to the hand gesture or thumb signal used by ancient Roman crowds to pass judgment on a defeated gladiator. There is much controversy about what exactly a thumbs up or thumbs down signified during the battles. Some say that just showing the thumb out of the fist meant life or death for the combatants. The famous painting Pollice Verso, 1872 by Jean-Léon Gérôme, depicts a scene of the Roman gladiator arena. In our contemporary society, a thumbs up is a positive approval, a thumbs down is negative disapproval. Duh, obviously. So then it has this poll. And here it says, thumbs everywhere, but not a thought to think. So the whole thesis, I guess, behind this book is the idea is social media and the medieval nature of it. I didn't even mean for that to happen, but that's where it went. And then, so what this is sort of a encyclopedia of thumb things that we do as human beings, and all of these statements and thoughts about thumbs. We're very thumb focused as people. So this is called rule of thumb, rough estimation made according to practical knowledge or experience, not based on science or an exact measurement. So this is the wheel that you can turn with all of these thumbs that are quite phallic. And a British tale from the 18th century says a judge once decreed that a man was legally allowed to beat his wife as long as the branch with which he hit her was no larger than the thickness of a thumb. This is a controversial story as to its authenticity, but it lives on as an origin story of the phrase rule of thumb.
Ellen, your voice is kind of fading in and out. Maybe you can lean forward a little more.
Oh, I'm talking into my headphones.
Okay,
Maybe they were covered up with my hair. Is that better?
that is better.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So this one is thumb screws. And so this one is a door. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a thumb war. And I was thinking about that game that you play as kids where you thumb war. This is a quote about thumb screws, what that is, a vice-like instrument of torture from the medieval age. Primarily a victim's thumbs were placed in the vice and slowly crushed by repeated tightening. The phrase putting the screws to someone is related to this form of torture. And this is a quote I found at the time that I was making this book, and it was from an essay in the New York Times entitled, "I Used to Fear Being a Nobody, Then I Left Social Media," by Bianca Vivian Brooks. And the quote is this: "The idea that the happenings of our lives would be constrained to our immediate families, friends, and real life communities is akin to social death in a world measured by followers, views, likes, and shares. I grow weary when I think of this as the new normal for what is considered to be a fruitful personal life. Social media is no longer a mere public extension of our private socialization. It has become a replacement for it. What happens to our humanity when we relegate our real lives to props for the performance of our virtual ones?" So this page is "By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes." And that's from Macbeth by William Shakespeare, Act 4, Scene 1, spoken by the second witch. And on this side are these little bubbles that are filled with, they're like paper on the outside, and there's a hole, and then behind it is stuffing like batting or like a stuffed animal or a pillow. And they say addiction to anxiety, addiction to approval, addiction to drama, addiction to avoidance, addiction to pacification. Sticks out like a sore thumb. If you say that someone or something sticks out like a sore thumb, you are implying that they are not noticeable, usually because they are considered unusual or inappropriate. This is intended as a pejorative phrase. And then there's a quote here by Anais Nin. The secret of a full life is to live and relate to others as if they might not be there tomorrow, as if you might not be there tomorrow. This feeling has become a rarity and rarer every day now that we have reached a hastier and more superficial rhythm. Now that we believe we are in touch with a greater amount of people, this is the illusion which might cheat us of being in touch deeply with the one breathing next to us. Under my thumb, this is a table. I don't know if you can see that it's raised up with the table underneath. Part of this text is thumbing is an interesting 19th century word defined as a Nottingham phrase used to describe that species of intimidation practiced by masters on their servants when the latter are compelled to vote as their employer pleases. This is all thumbs, an idiom referring to being physically awkward at tasks, especially skills involving use of the hands. See, uncoordinated butterfingers. According to the Urban Dictionary, the contemporary use of the term is used to indicate a poor speller in text responses. This is because texting involves the use of the thumbs, and the texting keyboard is quite small relative to an adult person's hands. So these thumbs are attached with grommets, and under each thumb is a thumb phrase like Thumbelina, thumb a ride, hitchhiker's thumb, which is the kind of thumb that I have. It curves back like that, like really sharply. That's called a hitchhiker's thumb. Green thumb, Tom thumb, thumbing through, thumb your nose, thumbs up, twiddle your thumbs, and strangler's thumb. And that's another kind of thumb when a person's thumbnail kind of fills up the top of their thumb. And this is the quote that really started the book, and it's this, and it's from Satires by Juvenal in 100 AD. These men were once hornblowers who went round of every provincial show and whose puffed out cheeks were known in every village. Today they hold shows of their own, and with applause by slaying whomever the crowd with a turn of the thumb bids them slay. So that's the book. And then the last page is a green thumb. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So Kyra writes, thumbs up, Ellen.
You got it. I can draw thumbs in my sleep now.
I believe it.
I've drawn so many.
We're seeing lots of love this, love this, love this, love this. Larry's asking, how did you do your illustrations?
So I do draw them usually in my sketchbook, and then I do lino cuts. So all of those illustrations are lino cuts. They're reduction. So the red is the first run, the first print. So like, oh, you can't see it. Let me share my screen again so you can see. If I can I do that?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So the red I print, and that's under the black as well. And then I cut away more, and then you can see the red. So all of the images are done that way. So it was a lot of, figuring out how to print something like this, because this piece is folded in half. So when I printed it, both thumbs were on the block like this. And I had to space it and figure out how to cut that so that I could make this piece work correctly. And then I cut all the pieces, like, I don't know if you can see that kind of shape, or even with this one, you can see it better. You can see the outline. I used, I have a Cricut cutter and I cut with that. I just needed to allow a lot of space because it's not perfect. It's hard to control it. Next time I do this, I would probably try to use a bleed so that my image bleeds out where I want to cut it. And then it would give me, I wouldn't have to be so precise to this line.
So there's a couple questions about how it's produced. And I think you said the edition is 40 copies.
Yes.
And you did it letterpress, yes?
Yes, it's letterpress printed from lino blocks and photopolymer plates, the type. Some of the type is like this, the stamping is foil stamped, and that's metal. Yeah, but it's all letterpress printed.
And if someone is interested, they're just going to contact you directly?
Yes, you can. They are available.
And Ellen's website, Kyra has put it into the chat, so you can find her there and find her website. And she's put it in.
It's crookedletterpress.com. Pretty easy. Crooked Letterpress, one word.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely, Ellen. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Thank you.
It's so fun to see the final version, because I saw some drafts in 2019.
2019. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Come a long way.
Yay. It's great. It's great.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right. I'm going to go back to Big View. And quick reminder, if you're enjoying the presentation tonight and you'd like to watch one of the 5 Zoom events that we've already done, we started this a little over a year ago. Look what happened. You can find those all on our YouTube channel, which you're going to find in your chat feed in a moment. They're all just sitting there waiting for you. So go take a look. And I am so delighted to now turn the mic over to Jerusha Graham, who I met a couple years ago for the first time. And I'm delighted to have her come and talk about this great thing that she has done. Jerusha is the museum coordinator for the Robert C. Williams Museum of Papermaking, and she's a working artist. In addition to her curatorial efforts at the Paper Museum, she is the VP of Exhibitions and Curatorial for the North American Hand Papermakers. Jerusha has also been a guest curator for the Zora Neale Hurston Museum in Eatonville, Florida, and the Hudgens Center for Art and Learning in Duluth, Georgia. Prior to her work in Georgia, she served as the museum director and education coordinator for Spiral Q, an arts and social justice nonprofit. Jerusha was one of 5 artists selected by the Georgia Committee for the National Museum of Women in the Arts exhibit at Mocha, Georgia, Paper Roots, Women to Watch 2020. She's interested in creating spaces for socially minded introspection and empathy through her artwork, workshops, and curatorial projects. So excited to have Jerusha with us. Jerusha, it's all you. As soon as I scroll down to find your name, to throw the spotlight on you. There. Got it.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I just want to thank the Movable Book Society for this opportunity to share a little bit about Kinetic Joy, Basic Principles of Paper Engineering, which is a virtual exhibition by the Robert C. Williams Museum of Papermaking. I'll start by giving a little information about the museum itself, then highlight some of the features of the virtual exhibit, and end with a make and take activity. Oops. Trying to advance, sorry. For some reason, my arrow's not working. Here we go. But before I begin with the museum, I'd like to highlight the book print artist scholar of Color Collective, founded by Tia Glassingame in 2019. The collective creates a space for scholars of book history and print culture, as well as curators, to connect with BIPOC papermakers, printmakers, and book artists in an effort to advance dialogue around the potential of these art forms as vehicles for social commentary and change. I just wanted to mention this organization because it would be a great organization for you all to connect with. And I personally love to see more pop-ups addressing representation and conversations around social justice. Oops. So as mentioned before, I'm the museum coordinator for the Robert C. Williams Museum of Papermaking, and that means I install and deinstall the exhibitions, as well as make all the paper pulp that we use for our workshops. The Paper Museum is located in Atlanta, Georgia, on the Georgia Institute of Technology campus. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble clicking today. The Robert C. Williams Museum of Papermaking is an internationally renowned resource for the history of paper and paper technology. The museum is dedicated to collecting, preserving, increasing, and disseminating knowledge about papermaking, past, present, and future. Our permanent exhibits feature Dard Hunter's historic collection, pre-paper and the invention of paper, tools from the early industrialization of papermaking, and we're renovating the fourth space to reflect the research that happens in the Renewable Bioproducts Institute, which is the building we're housed in on Georgia Tech's campus. There are also 2 spaces for changing exhibitions, and we usually display 3 to 4 shows a year, and we try to rotate between exhibitions that are historic, scientific-based, fine art, to just offer some variety. Now on to Kinetic Joy, Basic Principles of Paper Engineering. We're in the process of updating our website, so you'll need to use the link provided that you see there at the bottom of the screen, and I also pasted it into the chat at the beginning in order to be able to access Kinetic Joy. And then once we get the full new site done, it'll be accessible through paper.gatech.edu. So I need to give a thank you to Kara for sending a copy of Movable Book Society Meckendorf Awards, and to Sean Sheehy for the amazing pop-up workshop you conducted for Big River Bindery, because these 2 factors are the reason that when we got sent home for the pandemic, I pitched a pop-up exhibition as a virtual show for the museum. I also drew heavily on how-to videos by Duncan Birmingham and Matthew Reinhardt, as well as the book, The Elements of Pop-Up by David A. Carter and James Diaz. So the exhibition explores, sorry, are you guys seeing the full screen or is it blocked?
It's good.
Okay.
It's good. Yeah.
The exhibition explores movable mechanisms, including mechatronics and origami. This diagram appears on the movable mechanisms page, which outlines basic categories such as pull tabs, wheels, parallel folds, and angle folds. And then when you scroll down on the page, videos of models we made based on the Diaz and Carter's book, The Elements of Pop-Up, can be clicked on and seen how they actually move. Then we go into the physics of engineering, which outlines Newton's 3rd law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It also features diagrams to visually make the connection with trigonometry, that your angles have to be balanced. So even if you don't fully understand the trigonometry that's happening as you're making your mock-ups and seeing what works and doesn't work, the diagrams can kind of help better understand what is actually at play there. The museum really encourages you guys, if you're teaching workshops and find any of this information useful, to please share the link for Kinetic Joy with your classes. The website also explores paper mechatronics and automata. So here you see diagrams outlining some of the simple mechanisms that can be used to translate motion, right? So like the cam in the center there, as you rotate that cam, it's gonna lift and lower the follower rod that's in the gray there. So you can attach something to that. And then on the crank, the same thing, it will either lift it and lower it, but it can also give a side to side motion. Excuse me. And then with the spurs there on the left-hand side, you're translating that circular motion into a faster or slower rotation. On the origami page, we have another set of diagrams featured, how to read origami diagrams, how to create basic origami folds, and then how the basic origami bases, kind of the starting point for any shape that you're building, how those handful of base structures relate to one another. As well as there's 2 videos, one by Robert E. Lang, who's a professor at Georgia Tech and an amazing origami artist. And this video is courtesy of Wired Magazine. And then we also have a stop motion showing Sipo Mabana, his origami rhino unfolding. Of course, we couldn't do exhibition on paper engineering without highlighting some contemporary engineers. And so we have Carol Barton, Colette Fu, and Sean Sheehy representing artist books, Marion Battelle, Matthew Reinhardt, and Robert Sabuda representing commercial publishing. And then origami is represented by Robert Lang, Sipo Mabana, and Huang Tin Kiet. And finally, we have art and science represented by Eric Demain, Hyun Ju Oh, and Matt Schleien. And you can find their bios on this page, as well as links to their websites. Also, you'll notice in the top left-hand corner there, we did include the alphabet pop-up from the Movable Book Society. So even if you're not in that listing I just named, you may be featured in the video. The site also covers some history of paper engineering as well as history of origami. And here I need to thank Ellen G.K. Rubin and Robert Sabuda for their lectures on pop-up history, as well as a number of libraries who staged pop-up exhibitions that I was able to gather historic information from. And then finally, there's a resource page. Excuse me. I also would like to mention, so that's the meat of the Kinetic Joy, but I'd also like to mention that on the museum website, we have, we do an event each year called Paper Animation Fast Film Fest. And so if you all are interested in motion, you might be willing to explore stop motion with some of your mechanisms or with cut paper. And it's open to anyone who wants to participate. It's a virtual event, and the premise is short films, 5 seconds to 5 minutes long. And there's lots of tutorials and how-to resources and inspiration on our YouTube channel, which you can get through our website. So that's the exhibition. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. Did anyone have questions, or should I move right into the make and take?
There don't seem to be any questions in the chat. Kyra's been throwing in a lot of the links, so I think it's kind of being covered there. So you could maybe go right to the make and take.
All right. So I need to share my screen again. Sorry.
And while Jerusha's figuring that out, let's just super quick underscore the fact that Kyra threw in a Jerusha solo show, Freedom Isn't Free, at the Callenwald Fine Arts Center, and my chat just disappeared. But do you want to say one quick thing about that, Jerusha, before you talk us through this?
I have an exhibition at one of the local art centers here in Georgia, Callenwald Arts Center, and it's features textile works, paper cuts, and a few prints, all focused on a concept of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Like what does that mean, and how do we move forward to try and live up to the dream?
Nice.
All right, thank you so much. I tell you, you're on top of it. So you all may have received what am I trying to say? File with these two sheets here. One is the actual written instructions of what I'm showing you today, and the other is a template. So this actually folds down into a little postcard that will have two houses, one here and one here. And I'm going to go through constructing the house and putting it in here. And there's plenty of space to kind of write notes to friends and family. So if you have your template, it helps, or at least it helps me to have a ruler to cut against, or you can cut everything with scissors. There's no, fussy points on these shapes. And then a bone folder, or call it food, recommends a knitting needle. And I couldn't find my bone folder, so I ended up pulling out the knitting needle.
Jerusha, quick interruption. In case you didn't grab the template earlier, everybody, Kyra's just thrown that link in the chat so you can take a look at it. And again, if you're not ready to work tonight, this is all going to be recorded so you can watch the recording and make it later. Back to you.
All right. So if you all have the template in kind of doing this along with me, because I'm trying to make sure that we keep within our time. The first thing that I usually do is cut, and I'm actually going to use a different. I should say the first thing that I usually do is print this on a couple of different colored sheets, so I have options, I have choices, and then I like to cut the postcard section away from the pop-up pieces. I'm just using a ruler and an X-Acto to cut that straight line. I'm going to go ahead and score this and set it off to the side. And we're scoring on the broken lines. And then folding the flaps away from the postage mark. I also like to give this a good rubbing down, really sharpen that fold. Right, and then I can just set that off to the side. So on this, you'll have two houses, two roofs, and then the tabs that attach the roofs to the houses. And note that the houses are slightly different. The tab sections for the house are slightly different. All right, so I'm just going to cut this apart. And I'm going to make a blue house, and I personally like my tabs to match my the body of my house. So I'm going to cut one of those, and then I think I'll put maybe a yellow roof on this one, or maybe a light green roof. And you're cutting the solid lines, and we're going to score the broken lines. And I will say that the roof part is extra long. So like as you get your house put together, you can kind of trim it down to the length that you would prefer. Right now, I'm going to leave it at its full length until I construct the house. All right. So you get the idea. I don't think you guys need to watch me cut. I'm going to Martha Stewart it and pull out the pieces that I already have cut. All right. And you can see here that I went with my ruler and my knitting needle and scored each one of the broken line sections and went ahead and gave each of these a good rubbing down so that they're going to want to fold and move easily, and really trying to be mindful that I don't have any bits hanging past the tab mark, right? Otherwise you're going to end up it's going to be catching on itself. All right. And then I'm going to just sit this here so that people can kind of see how these pieces actually relate, like if you're going back and doing this again, how they relate to these diagrams here. So the first thing that I usually do is attach the roof support to the house. You can see I've got this piece here, and the roof support has, you know, the two tabbed wings here on the side and then the big tab on top. And these are actually, when they're installed, one of these triangular tabs is going to be facing in one direction, and the other triangular tab will be facing in the opposite direction. I don't know if you guys can see that. Right. But to glue it down, I like to glue everything flat. So I'm going to glue the back of this tab to the left side of the left triangular shape there. In the front of this tab, we'll get glue, and I'll just fold this over. So let's do that. Get my glue sheet. you guys are my guinea pigs here, because I have not had to teach this workshop. Our education coordinator, I made the design in the handout, but our education curator is the one that's taught it. I haven't had to try and explain this in live. I'm placing that down
It's going great, Jerusha.
and just folding this over. Giving a good rub down. And I'm also, I want to check because I scored everything. I can, if I'm careful, I can kind of just check to make sure that it's gonna open and close the way that it needs to. Right. So we're here. The next thing that we're gonna do is put some glue, some paste, that's what the P there is for, on this little tab, and then fold the house flap over. So making sure that you're only getting the tab and you're not getting glue traveling anywhere else. And you really want to make sure to get all the way to the crease there. Can you guys see?
We can see you're doing a good job.
And giving that a good rub. And again, just testing to make sure that everything is opening the way it needs to. And I actually see I've got a piece of glue hanging there. Try and get that out of there. All right. And then the final thing for the house is attaching the roof. So I usually go ahead and give my tab a fold over. And it doesn't matter which direction this tab is folded in. Put some glue on the tab, getting all the way to the fold. And then I'm going to pinch the roof on top of it all. All right. And that's our house. Right now it's folding with these two tabs. I can see both of them. We want to pinch the pop-up so that those two tabs are laying on top of one another before we install it in the postcard. Okay. Right. You can see I've already positioned one of my houses. And for this card to work and to open correctly, we want to position one of the houses kind of further towards the back and one of the houses closer to the front so that they give each other some room, some space. And so I'm going to position this here. And we want to, the house will look like it's sitting at an angle when it's flat. In what is the diagonal portion of the tab will actually be sitting right in the crease of the base. And we're going to keep it flat. I'm going to put glue on each of the tabs. The exterior, the glue should be facing out. If you put glue on the interior, you're going to glue your tabs together and it's not going to open properly. All right. Making sure I don't have any glue on the interior. I just realized one of these tabs is shorter than the other, so you want to be mindful not to get glue where it doesn't belong. Again, positioning that in the crease, in the gutter, and giving it a good rub down. And those are my two houses. This was created, this design was created when we were still on house arrest. So thinking about something that could be sent to your friends and neighbors. So it's a very basic design, but you could, you know, get fancy with the decoration of the houses or add some additional pop-up elements because you still have some, you know, small elements that stand up off of the side, you know, a parallel fold off of the side of the house or something like that. And that's it. And you can get taped. The flap overlaps just a little bit. So it can get taped or glued there and sent through the mail. Any
Nice.
questions?
So you have a
Jerusha,
lot
let's
of
take your screen sharing down.
Okay.
What we like to do frequently is give everyone the chance to hold up what they've just made. So go ahead and turn your videos on, folks, and show some colors.
We can look at the gallery. If
We
you
can look
get
at
the
the
gallery
gallery.
view, you can see what people have done.
Ooh, Susan Scher's got some decorating going on already. That looks great. And I guess too, Jerusha, since this is a COVID project, our two houses are socially distanced.
Yes, they are.
They're
I
excited.
made them small enough that you know, that they would fit in the fold up, but also because it's a postcard, to leave space that you could put a message. You know, you can put a message on the interior as well as I guess the back flap. But if you want to keep your comments private, they can go in the interior there.
Right.
So you're getting a lot of thank yous, and this is wonderful in the chats. And Kyra has put your email in as well as your Instagram, and so you may hear from a lot of people. And this is a really I'm looking forward to doing this. I wasn't organized enough to print it out today.
Well, I'm hoping that the written instructions are clear enough too that it's easy to remember what was going on. Yeah.
Well, and we do break out the make and take video so that you can watch the entire Zoom presentation, but you can also just see the make and take section by itself. And the templates get posted with that on YouTube. So people, if you didn't have a chance to get it done today, you can follow along on the YouTube instructions as well.
I also want to acknowledge that the house structure I got from Duncan Birmingham's book, Pop-Up Design and Paper and Mechanics. I got the house structure from him and then figured out how to do the double, what is this called? There's a word for that, the double opening, the French door.
The French door.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jerusha, I don't know if you saw this, but we had Duncan on a couple of times back. And so he's a familiar face to to the group, and it was a really lovely night.
Yeah, I owe him so much. I binge watched all of his how-to videos during the first shelter in place.
Yeah, they're so good. They're so good. I wanna throw out this question because I have the same question. Your Kinetic Joy logo is gorgeous. Who worked on that?
I made that logo using a font that I got off of is it Creative? Not Creative Mornings, Creative. I'll have to email it to you guys. It's a place where you can get graphics, fonts, and specially designed brushes for the different Adobe products and photos, and it goes straight to the designers. Like the fees you pay go straight to the designers.
So you hired someone through an online agency?
No, there's a site that you can go and get fonts that people design or
Font. Okay.
graphics. And so I got the font that and used that font to create the Kinetic Joy graphic.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's really fun. It's just, in terms of trying to make typography represent the spirit of a thing, it's very kinetic. It's just great. Yeah.
Wonderful. I'm glad you guys like it.
Yeah. All right, folks, we are at our 8:30. We're at 8:35, in fact. We'll keep this open for just a tiny little bit, maybe not a full 30 minutes like we've done sometimes in the past, because I know some of you guys are outside and being social and already, and it's
Right.
not so much of a thing.
I'm sorry, I got the it's Creative Market is the site that I get got that particular font from.
Yeah, and that's been dropped into the chat so as a reminder to everybody. Kyra's put the website in, and so Kyra is on the job.
Yes.
Our keyboard's on fire. Great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you very much to all of our presenters. Again, we've had just a pile of nice thank yous. It's been such a great variety, such good, interesting stuff. We're going to be meeting again on November 13th. Let me double check and make sure that that's actually what I said. Yes, November 13th will be our next show. I have no idea what's going to happen yet, except for that MJ is going to talk about sound circuitry. So get ready for that. And maybe I'll see you at the conference, virtual or on site. Thanks, everybody.
And I've just put in one more plug for Fast Film Fest. Usually happens in March, and we have not yet had anyone animate do a stop motion with a pop-up book. So just putting that out there.
All right, Jerusha's throwing down a challenge there. So put your thinking caps on.